and welcome. Karen Gosling here from Emotion Matters. How great that you've made it. Did you do the quiz? It didn't take long, did it? I'm really curious to see what you came out as. What sort of mate type were you? I'd love you to share that with us down below, and I bet you're also curious to know a couple of things like what were the other mate types, and importantly, what does it mean to you anyway? So let me show you what I'm going to be doing here on this video and the resources that I've got to help you. First of all, let's get some action happening. If you look down below, you'll see that I've got a link there to the Intimacy Quadrant Blueprint report. Now, it's deliberately not long, but it's got total actionable content there for you. The first thing you've got to do is go and download that and open it up. Don't just let it sit there on your computer and say, oh, I must do that one day. Open it up now, because I've deliberately made it so that you can start taking action on it straight away. What you're going to find there is that I go into more detail on what the different mate types are. And then what I've done is I've outlined what the 5 steps are that all people in relationships need to implement in order to be able to create the greatest success, the soulmate relationship. And then importantly, depending on what those steps are, depending on where you fall on the intimacy quadrant, what it is that you need to be doing, what the focus is that you need to be doing when you're looking at that step. At the end of it, I've also got the individualized action plan for you so that you can get started on that as well. So that's what you've got there in the report. Make sure that you have a look at the blueprint, print it out, or just open it up on your computer. But whatever you do, make sure you look at it, because that's where the gold really is. Now, what I'm going to do in the rest of this video is go over what the different mate types are on the intimacy quadrant, so you can see where you fit in here compared to where else you could be on the quadrant. And I'm going to talk about the main thing you need to be focusing on. So let's get started. Also, let me tell you, please take part in the conversation. Really, I love being able to answer your questions, hear your comments and your ideas. I know that you've got really great ideas that you'll be able to share with other people who come here as well. So please leave a comment down below. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, make sure you get into the conversation. Let's get into it, and I'll be able to help you here. So, the intimacy quadrant. What you'll see is that I've got 2 axes here. These are the 2 areas I have found that determine how fast you can re-engage in relationships and how fast it's going to be for you to be successful. So this first one here on the horizontal axis is about achieving intimacy, or your ability to experience sensual and sexual intimacy in your relationship. The reason for that is that if you don't have very much physical intimacy, it's going to be much slower for you to reach the level of soulmate, because this is an important part of a connected relationship. It just means that you can get there faster if you enjoy physical intimacy. It's one thing to actually participate in physical intimacy, and it's another to have the desire to be involved with your partner on an intimate level. So have you got the desire to be sexually involved with your partner? If not, what do you need to know to get that desire? I'm sure you can relate to what I'm saying here. That's why this is the first criteria that we're going to be looking at. The next one up here on the vertical axis is your ability to have emotional connection through effective communication. The reason for this is if you don't have good communication, it's going to take you longer to re-engage emotionally, because you may be unable to resolve past hurts or discuss each other's feelings. This will have an adverse effect on your partner and on your relationship. So that's why effective communication is so important. How clear are you on the value of effective communication to your relationship? What expertise do you already have in the area? What skills or training have you had? If you're really not sure, if you're not sure how good your communication is or how well you come across to other people, then that's one extreme, right up to the other extreme where you're really brilliant at communicating and already getting that feedback from other people. So you've already got some communication skills. So these are the 2 variables that we're going to be looking at. I'm sure you're beginning to think now about where you might fall on this quadrant. So let's have a look at the different mate types. Let's reveal the first one. Housemate. First of all, we've got the housemate. Were you a housemate? A housemate is, and see if you can relate to this, when you no longer feel connected to your partner. In fact, you feel indifferent, perhaps even guarded, communicating at a superficial level just to keep the peace or manage the children. As a housemate, you've grown tired of sex with your partner, often due to resentments that have built up. Those emotional hurts make it more difficult to be vulnerable and to share in sexual intimacy. It is very hard to make love to your enemy, I say to people. So you live together and you still talk about things, who is using the car, who's picking up the children, what's for dinner, but you don't talk about feelings anymore, either because you can't be bothered, or you are too tired, or you've learned that it isn't safe. The connection is gone, the glue that connects you together as a connected couple. You can remember though when you were first in love and you talked about everything and anything, and if you weren't together, you spent hours on the phone. You would talk about your hopes and dreams, your plans, your love for one another, your disappointments, your failures, even your past relationships. You talked about everything because of the trust you had and the love you shared. That was because you believed your partner wanted to know everything about you, and you felt safe that no matter what you said or did, your partner would love you and not judge you. But then something changed. You started to get negative or irritable responses, and so you began to shut down and become more cautious about what you said. Or perhaps you were the one that did the nagging and the criticising, which resulted in your partner withdrawing from you. And so began the decline in emotional and physical intimacy. Soon you both felt that the relationship was not as deep and connected as it used to be. So the summary for you housemates is that you do not share emotional intimacy, and you also do not share sexual intimacy. And these are the things that you need to be focusing on getting right before you even start to think about being soulmates again. So what happens if you're still not really sure about how to regain an emotional connection, or how to start talking about your emotional wounds, or how to start rebuilding this relationship when you haven't got any interest in physical intimacy? Now this is where it fits in to talk about our next quadrant, the Playmate. Now the reason I've called this area a Playmate is because if you fall into this quadrant, you do in fact share physical intimacy with your partner quite regularly. However, still like the housemate, you do not share emotional intimacy because you have not yet developed effective communication techniques. This could be because you don't readily share your feelings at any time. Or it could be that you have felt not safe to do so because of previous reactions in this or other relationships. So once you get clarity, once you're really clear on what communication skills you need to build and why you're building them, you can take off fast. In fact, it can be really frustrating being a playmate because sometimes you feel as though you are there at the starting line, ready to run, but you're just waiting for the gun to go so that you can sprint. It can be really infuriating because you have a great sexual relationship but do not feel fulfilled emotionally because you haven't yet developed a way to talk intimately with your partner. If you're a playmate, your relationship may well be driven by sexual desire, where sex is an opportunity to satisfy your lust for your partner. Perhaps you experience a dopamine rush each time you see, touch, feel, smell or hear your lover. You want to have him or her totally, sexually and repeatedly. This will occur in the early stages of a relationship, or if a person is having an affair, or even if the relationship is forbidden for any reason, for example, a cultural taboo. Sometimes people confuse sex and love and attempt to find the fulfillment of love for which they yearn by frequent sex, without regard for the care of and communication with their partner, which are the other aspects of a connected relationship. Others may be addicted to sex and initiate sexual activity frequently without regard to the desire for communication or emotional connection that the partner prefers. Perhaps you're in a new relationship and the intensity of your passion feels real and genuine, as you do in fact feel connected to your partner in every way. Yet you have felt this before, this spark, this urge to merge with your partner, where sex is easy and exciting. You also fear that given time, this wonderful and amazing feeling will pass as the relationship progresses. It always does, and it's the reason why people move on to another relationship, because once this zing is gone, people feel that they're no longer in love. This fabulous feeling when we're first in love is called limerence, and it is a time-limited experience, an artificial state of euphoria caused by arousing brain chemicals which are released when we meet someone that we're attracted to. Limerence is a wonderful experience, but the passionate feelings are not an indication that this is a lasting relationship or indeed even a fulfilling one. In summary then, playmates do not share emotional intimacy, but they do share sexual intimacy. In order to become soulmates, playmates need to increase their level of emotional connection by first learning to share their inner feelings and then by using effective communication to maintain that level of intimacy. Sex is easy when there's no emotional hurts, no resentments. This is often the case when the relationship is new or the liaison is casual and the partners do not know each other really well. As people get to know each other more and personalities and idiosyncrasies become more evident, irritations and controlling behaviour become more apparent. In turn, this may impact on the desire for sexual sharing. And so some people instinctively keep the relationship at a superficial level, not revealing very much about themselves to their partner for fear that they may not be liked or that sex will become complicated. However, you cannot be a soulmate on sex alone. There needs to be a level of emotional connection. So that's our housemate and our playmate, if it sounds like you at all. And it's very likely that you're on the cusp between the two if you think that you could be falling somewhere here in between. Let's have a look then at our top left corner, where we find partners with a great connection, lots of talking, so plenty of good communication. The best mate. These are the best mates, and if you're a best mate, your other person is like your best friend forever, your BFF. You get on well together, enjoy your friendship, talk readily and easily with one another, and delight in discovering the things that you have in common, discussing the things that you love to do, sharing movies, meals or music, and laughing a lot. You never run out of things to say, and your best mate never judges or criticises you. You value each other and look forward to conversations, but there is no romance. When you're a best mate, there are still some personal things you keep to yourself. And whilst emotional intimacy may be growing, sharing dreams and hopes, disappointments and failures, there is no sensual or sexual intimacy to complicate the relationship. There may be teasing and flirting, warm hugs and expressions of affection, but that's still okay and not considered sexual connection because it's common behaviour between great mates at work, social and sporting groups. You know, men can be astounded and confounded, which means puzzled, to learn that their wife or girlfriend often feels betrayed by them, having a female best mate at work, or one from childhood perhaps, even when given reassurance that nothing is going on. This is because a man feels that he is faithful to his partner as long as he does not have sex with another woman. For a woman, however, her partner having emotional intimacy with another woman is as significant as him having physical intimacy, and therefore to her it feels like a betrayal. In contradiction, women often feel okay about having a male as a best mate and like to take his attention and connection as a boost to their self-esteem. Their male partners, however, will be uncomfortable about this as men do not trust the motives of other men. To summarise, best mates share emotional intimacy but do not share sexual intimacy. They feel a connection and will say they feel very comfortable with one another, familiar even, and have no hesitation in getting in contact with one another. But there's one step more to becoming a soulmate, which is our last quadrant. Let's have a look then at what happens over here with the soulmate. This is the quadrant where I tell you about being a soulmate. Did you come out as a soulmate? I'm really curious to know, is this is the type of relationship we all aspire to have. We all want to be connected to our soulmate. Now, from the outside, a soulmate seems as though they've got it made, and all of these other mate types are probably looking over here and thinking, that's where I want to be. Now, if you're right up here at the top, that's absolutely where you are and where it's best to be. As a soulmate, you feel connected to your partner, and your search for self, your true identity, is complete. You have a connection with the one whom you really love, and you feel safe in the relationship. Safe to be yourself, to love and be loved, each meeting the other's need for love. But if you're finding yourself down here, quite often what happens is that as a soulmate, yes, you feel confident that you can share thoughts and feelings with your partner. You're able to speak about the things that worry and concern you and acknowledge your partner's feelings. You are able to talk things through and resolve hurts and share physical intimacy. And you love doing things with your soulmate simply because you enjoy each other's company. And that's fantastic. You've probably got great feelings of connection and are talking about a future together. Congratulations, because that's just huge. Soulmates are great communicators. They enjoy emotional and physical intimacy, and they feel fulfilled and secure in their relationship. The problem that is happening here is that your soulmate relationship remains subject to outside stressors, such as financial stressors or extended family issues, and not managing your personal insecurities very well. You may still experience highs and lows and not always be the person in the relationship that you want to be. So what you're looking for then is emotional freedom, not being bogged down with negativity and stress. So what's really important to do here for a soulmate is we want to take what you've got in communication and intimacy skills and leverage them big time. And so we're going to be doing very similar steps as if you're a best mate and a playmate, in that we're increasing awareness of the impact of your behaviour on your partner. But because of existing skills, you can move a bit faster here. What we're going to do is leverage that. So how can we take these communication skills and these intimacy skills and leverage them to be emotionally free? When you're emotionally free, you have more time and energy to pursue other goals in life. Time that you would otherwise spend arguing, blaming and complaining, and dealing with the physiological and the psychological effects of stress felt in your body. If the two of you are not stressed in the relationship, then it's like buying yourself more time to enjoy each other's company. This can lead to the completion of goals, such as stepping up in your career to a higher, better paid position, or building a successful business together, taking a holiday together, completing a joint project, or even spending time independently with other people, like volunteering, and not having your partner be jealous or controlling. This less stressful lifestyle brings increased health, greater wealth, and a more engaged and meaningful life. Because when it comes down to it, by enjoying your soulmate, you are creating time to attain new goals. So this is what you need to be looking at as a soulmate, so that you can be really totally leveraging what you've got and go and attain your goals and get that lifestyle that you're pretty close to getting. So that's where you fall on the quadrant. That's all the different people on the quadrant. But where do you fit in? I'm really curious. After having done the test, did you think maybe you were a housemate? But now that you've looked at best mate, You may actually be closer to being a best mate. That's okay. You could be right on the cusp, and that's fantastic. So when you're looking at the blueprint, the link down below, and that's why I've put what you have to do for each mate type in there, because if you're thinking you're on the cusp, have a look at what I've put in the recommendations for both of the mate types that you could be. Then you can work out what is the best way for you to move forward. So I can't wait to hear what you think. Does this make sense to you? And especially after you've had a look at the report, what's the next thing you're going to do? Are you going to be able to start taking some action that's going to make it so much easier for you? If you'd like to have some help, I'd love to be able to do that with you. But you'll also just be able to take some action from having a look at the blueprint below as well. So I can't wait to hear what you say, and come back please and leave some comments and share your experiences with other people. Bye.